once Kahana moves to Israel, he inspires over a dozen of these terrorists to move with him, American-born Jewish terrorists, move with him to Israel and launch terrorist careers in Israel. He launches, his words become so inspiring in Israel that he inspires over a dozen Kahanist killers. But it's not enough. He was hoping that he could sweep up larger chunks of the population. Yes, the Kahanists have killed dozens of people, mostly Palestinians, in recent decades. They are certainly the most racist and most murderous Jewish political group to emerge in the last half century. But it wasn't enough for Kahana. It wasn't coming fast enough. It wasn't scaring Palestinians into fleeing the country at the rate that he'd hoped. So the Kahana movement needed another way to achieve the same goal, albeit at a slower pace, but in a determined fashion. So to do that, he recruited his younger brother. This is Kahana and his parents and his younger brother, Nachman, also born and raised in New York City. Nachman also, just as Kahana was a rabbi of the Young Israel movement, Nachman also was a rabbi of the Young Israel movement in New York. He moved to Israel and following his brother, or actually before his brother, and established the Young Israel synagogue in East Jerusalem. And he established the Kahanist vehicle for dispossessing Palestinians on the ground in East Jerusalem, called Ateret Cohanim. So what's Ateret Cohanim? What do they do? Their objective is to, as I said, ethnically cleanse Jerusalem of non-Jews. And the way that they do this is by getting donations from Kahanist millionaires here in the US, and then by funneling those funds to Israel and then purchasing properties in the old city, in the Muslim quarter, so that they can one by one, piece by piece, take over an Arab area and de-Arabify it, and Judaize it, property by property. And so they'll take over a property, they'll find some Palestinian person who's in economic straits, and they'll offer them an obscene amount of money, and they'll get the property, and of course, once it's theirs, then they turn it into a religious seminary. And it's not only that they're offering money, they do so in some of the most devious ways. Recently, we had a recording emerge where a head of the organization is offering one of these Palestinian people who's considering selling a home of his, "You want a girl? 1, 2, how many do you want? How old do you want?" Trying to sweeten the pie by trying to pimp out young women to kind of say, okay, well, we'll give you this much money and we'll give you some prostitutes on the side as well. This is how low it goes. In other cases, they offer them a huge chunk of change, get them on board, convince them, all right, well, maybe I'm going to have to leave Palestine. My neighbors aren't going to be too happy about this, but with the massive amount of money I'm going to get from these Kahanists, I'll be able to buy a big swath of land somewhere else in the world. But then once they've agreed to it, the Kahanists renege. Ateret Cohanim then downgrades their offer and offers them a paltry sum, much less than they first offered. And if you don't like it, as they, again, this is quotes from the Ateret Cohanim representative saying, either you close up the place and transfer it to us, or you go to court, and it'll be a blunder. It will become clear that your father or your husband did all this for the Jews, as an agent of the Jews. There are 2 ways to do this, quietly or noisily. For you, quietly is better. And in this way, they coerce Palestinians into giving up their lands. So this is Ateret Cohanim. And Nachman, once they've got territories, as I said, they establish religious seminaries there to train young Jews in this eliminationist messianic ideology. And to staff this yeshiva, Ateret Cohanim yeshiva, he gets Shlomo Aviner, a Kahanist rabbi who's actually related to Kahana by marriage, through his son, Binyamin Kahana, through his wife, then to be the top preacher at the yeshiva, he gets Moti Ettinger, related through Kahana's daughter, Tova, his son-in-law, Moti Ettinger. So it's a completely Kahanist yeshiva through and through. And of course, young Kahanists to come study at the yeshiva and harass and harangue Palestinians as they're going about through their daily lives in the Muslim quarter of Jerusalem. So, and who does he get to fund, to be the point person in the USA to make sure that that steady stream of funds keeps coming? He gets the vice president of Young Israel, Joseph Frager, also known for being the editor of a 7-volume compendium of Kahana's greatest hits. So it's a Kahanist organization top to bottom.